Hello, it's John Heaton and here's another video. Today I'm going to rank John Lennon's albums from least best to best, and the rule I've decided I'm going to use is I'm only going to include albums released in his lifetime, okay? So this album is not in there, and Milk and Honey is not in here either. We're going to start off from 1968 at number 12. Two Virgins. I'm not going to show you the cover for obvious reasons. I don't think there's much good to say about this album. I can tolerate a lot of Yoko stuff from the 70s, and in particular what she did on Double Fantasy, but on here, this album is just forgettable. It's as bad as Electronic Sound from George. It's not good. Second one, Unfinished Music. Don't even have this on vinyl, thank God. Dismissible again, nothing to say, sorry. At least the Wedding album, at number 10, has some interviews with them from the bed-in, and a couple of acoustic songs maybe. I mean, slightly more tolerable than the previous two, but still pretty bad, I have to say. Okay, next one, number 9, Shaved Fish. It's a compilation, so for that reason it's near the bottom. I don't like compilation albums, but the good thing about this album is it did include, I think it's 4 singles which weren't on albums, like Instant Karma, Cold Turkey, Happy Christmas, and Power to the People. And I know the Woman is the World is edited, so it's okay, but it's a pretty decent compilation album. I don't mind it at all. Number 8, are we up to? Live Peace Toronto from 1969. Side 1 is brilliant. Side 2, not so good, because it's Yoko basically, and not Yoko at her best in my opinion. But on side 1 we've got some great versions of Blue Suede Shoes, Dizziness Lizzie, Money, great version of Money. Not so good version of Give Peace a Chance in my opinion, but an historic concert. I would love to have been there, but I wasn't. So that's that one. Number 8, Rock and Roll from 1975. It's a pretty decent album. I like about half of it a lot. Bebop and Lula I think is great. Stand By Me is great. You Can't Catch Me is not great. Ain't That a Shame is good. Sweet Little 16, good version, Just Because is great at the end. So some of the Phil Spector tracks actually, like Sweet Little 16 and Just Because, are some of my favourites on here. Boney Maroney, another one with Phil Spector, is great. So it's not that consistent, but it's decent. It's decent. Okay, next one. Sorry, I don't have this on. I do have this. It's behind me on the wall. That'll make for another video. The vinyl. Sometime in New York City from 1972. And again, Yoko's tracks are a lot better on this than on the previous albums I mentioned. I think her Sisters Are Sisters is good. I think Born in the Prison is decent. I think Angela, which she did with John together, is great. We're All Water is quite amusing. And from John, New York City is brilliant. John Sinclair is a great track. And Woman is the End of the World is a pretty decent song. Not brilliant, but pretty decent. And ahead of its time in terms of feminist songs, I think. Next up is Mind Games from 1973. It's decent, but it's a little bit lacking in spirit. The title track is brilliant. Tight As, the second track, is great. Then it's kind of slightly let down with I'm Sorry, Asuma Sen, One Day at a Time, not a great falsetto from John, and Free the People is great at the end of side 1, and then side 2, Intuition, I love it. Out of the Blue, I love it, but I don't like the female backing vocalists, I have to say. Only People is forgettable. I Know is a good ballad. You Are Here is another great ballad. Meat City, a rocker at the end, not bad. So, a bit mixed, but pretty decent. Okay, Double Fantasy, number 4. When this album came out in 1980, obviously we were all tremendously excited by the return of John to the recording studio after 5 years since Walls and Bridges, and but I think at the time, I think it's fair to say we were all a bit cheated that he was coming back with an album with only 7 songs and the other 7 were from Yoko. So since then I've actually grown to like Yoko's contribution to this album, but at the time I was a little bit miffed. But Lennon's tracks, starting over, great bass line from Tony Levine. In fact, Tony Levine is brilliant throughout. Great band he had in 1980, Hugh McCracken, Andy Newmark, Earl Slick, brilliant. Clean Up Time's pretty decent. I'm Losing You is brilliant. Beautiful Boy, I remember being a bit underwhelmed by that when I first heard it, but it's a great song to his son. And Watching the Wheels and Woman are just up there with his best songs ever. Dear Yoko is pretty decent as well. And as I say, Yoko's contribution is pretty good. So this is a good album, but I have to put it at number 4 because there's only 7 John tracks on it. Actually, regarding 1980 John Lennon songs, you could cheat if you wanted to, and this album, this volume 4 from the anthology has the songs from Milk and Honey and the songs from Double Fantasy, so all the songs are John. And so this is if this was an album as released, it would be probably in the top 2, but it wasn't. So, but that's cheating, isn't it? Number 3, Imagine, from 1971. Well, you might think it should be higher, but I think this album is decent. Obviously, it's brilliant. I think it's a bit dishonest from John because he's put a lot of strings on it to make himself more commercial, and which is the very thing he was criticising Paul for doing at the time. A track like How and Jealous Guy, too much strings really, too many strings. But having said that, the title track is sublime. Crippled Inside is outstanding. Give Me Some Truth is brilliant. George's guitar solo on Give Me Some Truth and on How Do You Sleep is brilliant. But How Do You Sleep itself troubles me, that song, because it was a very vicious attack on Paul, and I don't really enjoy listening to it for that reason, because it makes me a little bit sad. So, number 2, Plastic Ono Band from 1970, the solo debut, and it's great. I mean, it's not that commercial, but he really bears his soul on this album, and there's so many great piano tracks. Lennon didn't really play a lot of piano on the Beatles tracks, but he really did quite a lot. Half these songs are on piano, and I think the other half are on guitar. So Isolation and Remember, great piano tracks. God is just brilliant, although a little bit depressing because he's talking about the dream is over for the Beatles. So it's not an easy album to listen to, but it's got the hallmark of greatness, and I've got to put it at number 2. I've got it. Number 1, my personal favourite from 1974, Walls and Bridges. It's John on his own, without Yoko, in the time of his Lost Weekend. And this is a mixture of like the harrowing John, but with a sense of humour as well, so that's why I love it. Whatever gets you through the night, great words, don't need a sword to cut through flowers, don't need a gun to blow your mind, don't need a watch to waste your time. Great words. Scared is harking back to Plastic Ono Band style, Ceiling Glass as well. Going Down on Love, the opening track, is brilliant. Bless You I quite like, but it's not my favourite. Number 9, Dream, good single, probably not my favourite. And Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out is a brilliant closer, although I actually prefer the anthology version with slightly less strings. And just look at the back cover. I mean, the artwork on this cover is brilliant. Someone from Capital put it together, and you can have fun with this. You can have a lot of fun with this. It's a great cover. So this album gets a 10 out of 10 from me. I'll probably do a separate review on it later. So that's my review of John Lennon's catalogue. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment. See you next time.